Hello everyone, thanks for coming to watch. So I've got you guys an update on some pretty big things that are going to be happening across the United States weather-wise this week. That mainly things are going to get started tonight. So mainly this evening into tonight. Then we're going to start seeing some more developing storm systems across the central U.S. We could be dealing with some heavy snow in some areas, and also a potential severe weather event. All right, so we got a lot of things to cover in today's update. And then we also do have a hurricane right now that is now hitting the western coast of Mexico. We're going to be talking about that. So a lot of big things to cover in today's update. So starting out here, you can see that we got a storm system that's moving its way across the northwestern U.S. This is a storm system I am tracking, as well as many others that we are expecting to move across the the Great Plains here, and we're going to start to see some big severe weather, a big severe weather event that's going to unfold across this region, maybe a multi-day severe weather event. And then as the storm will most likely move across the Ohio Valley and the Midwest, we could see even more rainfall and more strengthening conditions out there towards the East Coast. So a lot of things to cover today with mainly that storm system. But you can see we already got a lot of rain moving onshore here, impacting parts of Washington and then Oregon State. All right, we go down here to southern Texas. We have some ongoing showers and thunderstorms starting to build up across this region. A lot of rainfall moving across parts of southern Texas. We're also going to be talking about a Gulf system that could actually get a name. This could be a tropical storm, all right, by just in a few days. And this will actually end up impacting the southeast, including parts of northern Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. So I've got you guys an update on all of that coming right up. All right, so let's move on in our update, getting rolling here, looking at our current alerts. So you can see that for the most part, what we've got going on is a lot of action out here in the western U.S. All right, so you can see in these light blues, um, these are actually freeze watches, and this goes out for portions of western Nevada into eastern California. You can see a lot of western Utah in this as well. These are just for these areas that are going to be dropping most likely below 32 degrees tonight. And so when you have that standing water on those roadways, that's all going to freeze. And that's why we see freeze watches out there. And then when you also see in the dark blue right here, look at this very dark blue kind of purplish color. That's where you have that freeze warning. That's where we are expecting temperatures to fall well below 32 degrees, and that all roadways that have standing water will most likely freeze here. That's where you get that freeze warning. That goes out for portions of mainly southeastern Nevada. All right, you can see in this purple here we have a I believe this is a winter weather advisory here. Winter weather advisory going out for portions of southwestern Montana into western Wyoming, and then northern Utah. You all have that winter weather advisory. Also, parts of northern Colorado. You're gonna get the snow. It's coming, so just be ready for that. And you're most likely gonna get a few winter storm warnings up for some of these areas here. Already winter storm watches. All right. In these are dark blues here. This is just this is where we're expecting conditions to be a little more harsh when that storm comes through. When you get a little bit more snow. All right. You do have some wind advisories here that go up for portions of northeastern Montana. A few more wind advisories out here for parts of northern Arizona, southern California, and then we actually do have a high wind watch, which you don't usually see out here in northern New Mexico. And this is because we are really getting persistent gusty winds in this entire region, and I'm afraid that these winds could be strong enough to really cause some trees to fall, maybe on those power lines, which would definitely result in some pretty widespread power outages. So don't be, excuse me, don't be surprised if your power actually goes out tonight. For some of you in the southwestern U.S., especially if you're under that high wind watch, I would really watch out for that. All right, you see this pretty much this bluish kind of shade here. You have a frost advisory. All right, this is going out for areas of southeastern Minnesota, northeastern Iowa, down through the Midwest into the Ohio Valley, and then ending right here in parts of extreme western Maryland into southern Pennsylvania. Uh, you have that frost advisory because you could wake up to some kind of those frosty conditions. You're not, some of you will get below freezing, but not all of you. It's going to be pretty much near there. So you're going to have a little bit of a icy, rainy kind of mix, if you want to put it that way. So I'm sure you guys all know what I'm talking about with frost here. But nothing to really worry about for this area. Just to keep everyone notified about what will be happening, what our conditions will be like. All right. So we see out here now, we are looking at our current satellite, all right, for our hurricane that is now impacting, all right, portions of western Mexico. All right, you can see this is Hurricane Lydia, all right, and you have a strong Category 4 hurricane that's now impacting the western coastline of Mexico. All right, so you can see right now Lydia is looking pretty good on satellite. All right, this was just before it made landfall, just a few hours ago. Lydia is now actually moving pretty fast. This is a very fast moving storm, but we've got some pretty rapid intensification still going on. A lot of this moisture. Look at this big pocket of big moisture content with the system. That's just hurricanes love this kind of stuff here. This area out here in the Pacific is just loaded with moisture because you have a strengthening El Nino, and so Lydia has pretty much taken advantage of that, and she is now going to be slamming into the western coastline of Mexico, moving pretty fast. But again, notice how there's a lot of moisture in that area right there in the pink and the gray and the black. That's where you get a lot of that moisture. And notice how that continues to wrap around the storm, and you get a lot of that pink and purple showing up on the southern eye wall of the storm. All right. Quickly as this thing makes landfall, it goes from being an absolute monster Category 4 beast to at this point here, it's not really looking like a sharp, hurricane, but it's still got an eye, all right? But this will, I'm sad to say, this will actually bring some pretty catastrophic impacts to the coastline of western Mexico. You could really get some potentially life-threatening wind gusts out here that could reach speeds as high as 150 miles an hour. All right, it's going to be really, really intense, and it's going to be really scary seeing for millions out here in portions of Mexico. But Lydia is a pretty big hurricane, and it's making landfall right as I speak. So got to be ready, especially out there along the Mexican coastline, especially the western coastline. Even these islands up here on the northern side, or the top left side of your screen here, you see these islands. You guys will still feel some rain, some wind from the storm, but you're not going to get hit by that eye wall, which is the worst part of the storm. All right. So we look at our current projected 5-day cone. This isn't really something that's going to change just because, this is already an ongoing event. Nothing really to change with this. All right, so right now our current wind field estimate is that we have ongoing tropical storm force winds, sustained winds that are stretching about 50 to 100 miles inland from the coast here. Excuse me. All right, that's what you have in your yellow. And your brown here, which is actually going into portions of the coastline, you have a hurricane for sustained winds, which are sustained winds at least 74 miles per hour. All right, and so basically what we've got is hurricane warnings stretching all the way from pretty much up here, which is kind of parallel to the southern tip of the Baja California Peninsula. You can see that pretty much that's where we are right there. That's the marking the beginning of the top of our hurricane warning. This snakes all the way down to this area right here. All right, and where we meet up with that tropical storm warning. Tropical storm warning is also up for that area just north of where our hurricane warning begins. All right, I'm not very familiar with any of these areas out here, so that's why I'm not really naming any of these cities or regions. But because I don't usually do forecasts on Mexico, but just looking at here, those islands I was talking about. Well, sure enough, you are actually under a hurricane warning. I was actually kind of surprised by. I actually thought that you guys would be under a tropical storm warning, but you are under hurricane warning, meaning that you are expected to get hurricane conditions, meaning sustained winds at least an hour of at least 74 miles an hour, torrential downpours, and just really strong hurricane conditions out there. So be ready, but nothing much to really speak on this after because we're expecting landfall by this was our. I mean, we again you can see that we're really not. There's nothing much to talk about again because it's already made landfall. It was expected to make landfall right around 6 p.m. Tuesday. That's where you see that X. This is marking where we had our landfall. All right. We're expecting this monster to continue into the Mexican coastline, and then by pretty much around the middle of the night, we're getting tonight into Wednesday, 12 a.m. All right, we have a still a hurricane on our hands, most likely a Category 2, Category 1 hurricane, and then this just carries on into farther and farther into central Mexico now, and we have a tropical depression by tomorrow afternoon. So it's gonna be sticking with us for most likely another roughly another 12 hours, but it certainly won't be nearly as strong as it is right now that it will be out here in central Mexico. So if you can get through tonight without any major problems like catastrophic problems, I think for the most part you'll be okay. So we go over now to the southeastern U.S. This is where things can get pretty interesting, especially with the tropics here. So I just want to let you guys know that because Lydia is going to actually move all the way through Mexico, it's going to meet up with a group of showers and thunderstorms right here, which is pretty much just a tropical wave coming off the coast of eastern Mexico. This is all going to kind of conjoin. It's going to join into each other into a big and uh, annoying, pretty big and annoying tropical system that's actually going to get its act together across the Gulf of Mexico, and so we see we're getting into tomorrow, and we actually do have a low pressure storm now creeping up towards what's looking like it could actually pretty much give a direct hit to the Louisiana Mississippi coastline. All right, you see a lot of rain on this front side already at 992. Most likely, it could be a tropical storm. All right, I really don't know if this is going to have all of the components of a tropical cyclone. All right, that could be a thing that's going to hold it back from becoming a tropical storm. But this could really become a tropical storm. The National Hurricane Center only has this at around a 20% chance of development last time I checked. So I mean, it's looking unlikely. So I don't think this will actually have all the components of a tropical cyclone, but it'll still most likely feel like a tropical storm. All right. So, anyways, we get into later into tomorrow. All right, we're getting into around 12 p.m. tomorrow, which is Wednesday, the October the 11th. All right, so we're getting to pretty much mid afternoon, and we have a pretty big rainstorm that's starting to bring some showers and thunderstorms into the Gulf Coast. All right, and that center of the storm, where all that rainfall is, begins to move into portions of southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, starting at around 5 p.m. So 4, 5, 6 p.m. is when you're really going to start getting that torrential downpours, that really heavy rain out there on the Gulf Coast. And that center of the storm really starts to impact parts of northern Florida. There will be an existing tornado threat with this. All right, you see that we will have some pop-up supercells here that could rapidly develop. That's going to be a big thing that we could watch out for, and I'm afraid that this could be a pretty impactful system here. It's going to be battling some high pressure that's pretty weak, it's trying to block it from moving, all the way into the southeast. But this is not strong enough. I'm telling you guys, this is just not strong enough. Only 1,015 millibars. It's considered high pressure, but definitely not strong enough to block out a system that's already going to be this strong. So obviously, it just plows right through it, pushes us off to sea. We still got another low pressure signature right here, 994 millibars. A lot of rain moving into portions of southern and central Georgia, northern Florida in general, the Big Bend of Florida. More rain, most likely flooding rain, that will impact this area. But we could expect up to 4 or 5 inches of rain. I would say for mainly portions of southern Georgia into northern Florida, we could really expect a lot of rainfall. So this is going to be and the main threat with this is going to be severe weather and flooding rainfall. But look at all this rain moving into the coastline of mainly South Carolina. A lot of rainfall could really fall, and I mean this is a very showing up as a very intense band of rainfall that could go through the border, in between the border of South Carolina and Georgia. We could have a lot of serious rainfall. It could really lead to some big problems on those roadways with flash flooding. Big concerns with that getting into tomorrow, and then I mean by this time we're already into Thursday. We're pretty much well into Thursday, 2 p.m. Thursday, and this thing is just slowly but surely beginning to move out of the southeast, and this moves out the coast. But a lot of lingering showers and thunderstorms that could snake its way down through the Florida Peninsula. But we finally get into about Friday the 13th, all right, and we are done with the system. So it's gonna be a pretty long system. A few days with this system, but this could really drop a lot of rainfall, and that's going to be pretty concerning as we get through the system. So we're going to be looking at now the GFS model for your upcoming storm system. So I want to talk about a system that I've been talking about for pretty much 4 or 5 updates straight now. All right, we've been watching a developing storm system that's now made it onshore here in the western U.S. All right, it's going to be pushing to the east, and it's looking like that we're going to get some form of a severe weather event mixed with also a winter storm. All right, we're going to get some snowfall with this. All right, and so here's our big blob of rainfall here, and that's pretty much what our storm is right now. These are our two low pressure centers that are controlling it. All right. Notice how obviously the stronger one takes this storm itself first. All right, and around 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, we could have a an actual like organized and developed storm. All right, so this continues moving across the northwestern U.S. And then we appear to get another pop up low here that actually appears to be stronger, 988 millibars. So then that begins to take over the storm. So as it kind of agrees on which low pressure center will exactly take the storm on its path, that's when we can finally start seeing some intensification with the system. All right, but notice how we get into Thursday. We're getting into 2 a.m. This is it's looking like this is going to be Wednesday into Thursday. All right, here's your developing system, 988 millibars. All right, we are going to see some very strong winds coming up from the southwest. All right, so you see these little black lines. Let me change my color of uh, my drawing here. But you see these black lines in between these the states here. All right, these lines are pretty much where our wind streams are and where our wind current is. All right, so the closer the lines are together, the stronger the winds will be. So when you see all these lines here showing up, pretty much in an exactly straight line, not exactly, but a pretty good straight line here, but very close together, that's going to signify some very strong winds coming up from the southwest, pushing into the system. And that's actually going to be part of what's fueling the system, because you actually do have a lot of moisture coming up from the southwest. It's going to be loading a lot of moisture in front of the system. All right, that's going to be associated with warm air. All right, that's going to bring a pretty stable environment for some intensification and strengthening with the system. All right, so it's almost kind of like a tropical system, except you don't have warm waters that you really need to be concerned about or talk about. All right. And so we get later into Thursday. We're getting into about 8 a.m. Thursday, and now we start seeing that snow component to the system. Look at all the snow across the upper elevations of Wyoming into Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Montana. All right, a lot of rainfall on the backside of the system as well. And now this thing is growing. This is a 991 millibar low pressure storm, but this is growing, and by the time uh, we get into mid afternoon Thursday, we have a very big and intense storm with heavy snowfall for a lot of these upper elevations of mainly Wyoming, but a lot of rainfall, a lot of showers and thunderstorms impacting the Dakotas, parts of the north central plains. All right, this is going to be also looking like it's going to turn into a severe weather event because we get into Friday. All right, we're getting into Thursday, into Friday, and now we have a full on. Uh, we have a big. Obviously, we have already that storm system that's most likely going to be named, but now the it's turning from the snow and rain component to just a severe weather system. All right, and then we get into 8 a.m. on Friday, and you can see that we got basically what we got here is you can see we got very very strong winds coming down from the northwest. That's that cold air that's pushing into the system. All right, because you have these lines that are closer together. I explained that just now. All right, here you go. You see it up here on the map here, and so you could actually have some very strong winds coming down from the southwest, somewhere out here in stretching pretty much from northern Iowa down towards southern Oklahoma in this little uh, circled area here. I think we could get some pretty intense wind gusts, maybe reaching up to 60, 65 miles per hour. So a very strong and intense system. And at the same time, you also have some surging Gulf moisture in front of the system. All right, and this is also going to be associated with again that warm air in front of it. And this, I'm laying out pretty much for you guys the key setup for a severe weather event because when I showed you guys those winds coming up from the southwest, that's actually going to be associated with cold air. And so when you get that cold air and the warm air colliding, you get tension in the atmosphere, which gives you a severe some type of severe weather event. Mainly, obviously we get severe thunderstorms, but mainly, strong to severe. All right. And so as we get into Saturday, we're getting to this weekend. The storm is now moving over the Great Lakes, so it's kind of weakening at this point. And this is its weak spot here as it moves across the Ohio Valley. We get into pretty much midday Saturday. A lot of rain spreading into uh, now southern New England and the Mid Atlantic. All right, and notice how this thing actually starts to strengthen and it's starting to intensify again. We're getting to 8 p.m. on Saturday. A lot of rainfall falling across portions uh, of southern New England here. This could really be a really intense system for you guys in southern New England, just because you've been dealing with obviously that flash flooding in the past few days, past few weeks. We're going to get a lot more rain coming up soon. A lot of strong winds here. You can see those lines I've been talking about. They're starting to get a little bit closer together right here. You can see some persistent and strong offshore winds could really bring a punch to the coastal regions, mainly of the East Coast and especially southern New England and the Northeast. And then as the storm moves out to sea, obviously it will get stronger because it's not moving over land anymore. So that's it for that storm. It's a big storm. It is a cross country storm. This is it right here, where we are right now, and we take it all the way until it moves offshore. So coast to coast storm system that we're talking about with this one here. So we look at our current projected snowfall totals for the northwestern U.S. All right, so we'll put this out. Let's put this out around 84 hours out. All right, and so you can see that for these upper elevations, it's very precise. Some areas are pretty much no snow. Some areas are a few inches of snow, and some are a lot. All right. So these surrounding areas that are around those mountains, all right, you could pick up a few inches of snow. You could see some patchy areas out here in the mountainous regions of Montana, Idaho. You could see in Washington State, Oregon. All right, you could definitely see mostly 2 to 4 inches of snow, but some of these pinks, some of these pink shades, some of these white shades, you could get anywhere from half a foot to a foot of snow. And so that's where we get our big snowfall totals. So if we move into Wyoming, where I was mentioning, where we saw in the GFS just hour after hour with very heavy snow, well, here you see it. All right, we see in these greens here, these are snowfall totals ranging from a foot, anywhere from a foot to 2 feet of snow. And we see some of these gray shades. You could get up to a 2.5 feet of snow in these upper elevations. So a lot of snow is going to fall here. And then we see in the surrounding areas, in these blues and these grays, all right, anywhere from an inch to about 3.5 to 4 inches of snow could fall out here from places like South Dakota into northern Nebraska, all the way towards towards southwestern Montana, uh, northern Utah, and then even into uh, northern Nevada. You could definitely get a lot of snowfall. So it's gonna be a weird system because you don't really see crazy snowfall totals, especially around October. But we'll just continue to have to watching the system, obviously. But for those mountainous regions, a lot of snow could definitely fall. So we look at now our current projected rainfall totals. These are our rainfall amounts. All right, so I can zoom in here. I think. All right, maybe not. Yes, I can actually zoom in here. So I'm zooming in here. All right, looking at our. This is actually from the National Weather Service. This is their current projected rainfall total map here. All right, so you can see starting out in the northwestern U.S. All right, this goes out to the 18th. So this is just the duration of from where our system is starting to where it ends. All right. I mean, we could have ridiculous rainfall totals out here across the Pacific Northwest coastline here. Look at all this red and this orange here. You could have rainfall totals ranging from 3 up to 7, maybe up to 10 inches of rain in, just 60 hours. All right, excuse me. So we could really be dealing with some major flash flooding in these areas. This goes all the way up from the northwestern tip, like the Seattle area of Washington State, all the way down towards Northern California, that coastline. You could have at least an inch and a half of rainfall. All right, move inland towards the mountainous regions of the Northwest. All right, I would say anywhere from a quarter of an inch to an inch and a half of rain could definitely fall. This is our third area of concern with rainfall. All right, this is across the Central Plains. All right, we see in this blue, this purple and this red here. All right, we're expecting around 2 to up to 4 inches of rain. Some areas could get local areas could get some areas could get locally higher amounts. All right, that's certainly possible. All right, you could see this is including parts of South Dakota, going into southern Minnesota, including all of Michigan, including all of Wisconsin, a lot of northern Nebraska, northern Illinois, and even into central and northern Iowa. All in which we are expecting anywhere from an inch and 3/4 up to maybe even up to 4 inches of rain. All right, our third area of concern is out here in southern New England, where we've been talking about that flooding for days now. All right, and so you can see that we are expecting pretty much the same up to 4 inches of rain here. We can even zoom in. I guess we could zoom in a little bit. All right, let's zoom in a little more. And all right. I don't know if we can. I think that's good. But if you can see right here, where you see this red here across Long Island, that's where we could expect a little bit more rainfall. So that's where we say some locally higher amounts possible because this is not exactly like it's not perfect. It's kind of like all over the place, it's mixed. All right, so we see mostly for southern New England. We see these purple. That's around 2 inches of rain. So I would say anywhere from an inch to 2 inches of rain in general for the Northeast. But if you're in areas like Long Island, in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and then into Massachusetts, mainly southern and southeastern Massachusetts, you could expect maybe up to 4 inches of rain, 4 inches of rain instead of just 2 or 2.5 inches of rain. So a lot of rain is going to fall with this system. All right. And so we won't forget about you guys in the southeast. We'll look at you guys too. All right. Look at this in northern Florida. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, 3, 5, maybe up to 7 inches of rain out here. That could be for areas farther south. I really, the National Weather Service is showing some higher rainfall totals farther south, so more towards the Big Bend area of Florida, than up towards Tallahassee or areas above the Panhandle of Florida. So maybe even the Miami area you could get up to an inch of rain here, but you see in these reds and these oranges, you could get anywhere from 4 to 5, 6 inches of rain, and this purple shade and this red shade goes into parts of southern and central Georgia, South Carolina. Still, maybe up to 3, 4 inches of rain with locally higher amounts possible. So really got to watch out for that rainfall. It's going to be a big flooding concern for many parts of the country in just about a week. So this week's going to be pretty active weather-wise across the nation this week. So, we'll look at for the final part of the update. All right, our possible wind speeds here, because did mention that we are expecting some pretty strong winds with this system. So, all right, we see here our storm system that's now moving onto the coastline. All right, we'll start where our first push of winds are. All right, you can see that our storm is at this point it's developing, and we start seeing that shade of green in the yellows. All right, these wind speeds are knots. All right, so when you see greens here, these are wind speeds ranging from 20 up to 30 knots. So, converting 30 knots into miles per hour is about 37 miles per hour ish in that little area. So, I mean, if you're seeing sustained winds here at 37 miles an hour, which you could round up to 40 miles an hour, that would most likely give you gusts above 50 miles an hour. That's going to lead to big tree branches down, potentially trees down, power outages. It's all going to come, and we see it with this storm system because again, these lines that I was mentioning, you notice how they're very close together. Well, that's just gonna be because you have those really strong winds coming up and then down from the northwest. All right, that's going to be a huge part of why the storm is going to be so intense. Just because we are really expecting some really strong winds for your area, and then the storm moves across the Great Lakes. Obviously, as we see the winds push across the lakes, they have open water, no trees or anything blocking its path, so those winds actually can push across the water, becoming stronger. So if you're on the coast of the Great Lakes, I mean, you got to be ready. It's going to be really windy. All right, this could send. It honestly could be windy enough to send papers flying. It could just be a very but oddly windy day out there across portions of uh, really mainly just western Michigan and then parts of northern and eastern uh, Wisconsin. And this moves into the northeast. All right, this is our third area that we could watch with wind gusts. All right, we see these lines getting closer together, so persistent offshore winds pushing towards the coastline here. So let's say we actually see these winds becoming stronger toward the coastline. All right, then we could actually be dealing with some potentially some stronger wind speeds out here along the southern New England and mid Atlantic coastline. All right, that's going to be something we're going to have to watch because this is still slightly over 100 hours out. All right, so we still got time for this to change. But this could definitely be a very windy day for pretty much most of you guys in the northeastern West, but mainly along the coastline. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright. So we gotta watch this system. It's going to be a very intense system. I don't want to scare you guys, but it's going to be one of the pretty much you could call it the storm of October because I don't think we're gonna get this a storm this strong until pretty much November. So that's what most people are calling it by now. But just gonna continue watching it for you guys, tracking it. I'll keep you guys posted on whatever happens with the forecast for this system. So tune in next time for the latest information on the system. Most likely a video tomorrow. If not, I'll try and get one in for you guys Thursday. All right, but I hope you all have a great week. All right, if you happen to be in the path of Hurricane Lydia in Mexico, or if you know anybody that is in the path, I hope for you guys the best to get through the system. Just be ready. Don't be scared. Be prepared. Make sure that you are aware that the wind will be strong, very strong enough to really cause some big damage to homes and businesses. So if you have a basement, definitely stay the night down there. You don't want to, you don't want to take any chances of any debris injuring you. So thank you all for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.